Hello, I'm Edward Tarte, once a Catholic priest for 5 years in the 1960s, now an atheist, which means I find no credible evidence for the existence of any God. My local Catholic priest dialoguer, Father TJ, told me in his latest email that he recently went with his pastor to the seminary, an hour's drive from here, where he, his pastor, and I had studied to be priests, in order to celebrate the 45th anniversary of the ordination to the priesthood of a group that includes his pastor. TJ said to me, quote, "It was cool to see your picture as a newly ordained priest. Your name came up in discussion. I did not bring it up, they did. They talked about your musical giftedness and your chess dominance. I thought it was cool to hear about you in a way I never got to experience." Unquote. The only picture I have of those seminary years is this one, about 5 years before I became a priest. Here I am. TJ named 6 elderly priests, including his pastor. I remember all 6 of them. I remember with particular pleasure Lonnie, with whom I loved to play table tennis in very closely matched games. I also remember Adam, who, like me, was organist for some of the masses, benedictions, and other liturgical events at the seminary. Lonnie is now a pastor at a church in a central Texas town. Adam is a pastor in this area. Lonnie, Adam, TJ's pastor, Chester, and almost all of the others are now monsignors. That title means that in the estimation of their respective bishops, they have led long and distinguished adult lives as leaders in the Catholic Church. This summer marks the 49th anniversary of my ordination to the priesthood. Next summer it will have been half a century ago. But I left the priesthood after 5 years, in May 1968. That spring and summer of 1968 were a scary time in my life. I had to leave. I no longer accepted Catholic teaching. I had a job of sorts, being a newspaper delivery man 7 mornings a week for the early morning Houston Post. But I had a college degree in math, and I knew that I wanted to be a math teacher. I spent that summer applying at a dozen school districts in the Houston area, filling out application forms, having interviews with personnel directors and school principals. Late in the summer, I got a job in the LaPorte School District, a 30-minute drive from downtown Houston, so I could support myself. The next 17 years, I tried to teach math to middle school students, many of whom were from dysfunctional families and many of whom had not the slightest desire to learn math. I was not a good disciplinarian, and those were difficult years for me. Nevertheless, one of those years I was honored by the school principal as the most outstanding teacher at the school. But after 17 years, I had had enough of middle school students. I applied at a bunch of districts to be a high school math teacher. I was hired here in Kingwood. For the next 20 years, I taught at Kingwood High School, directly across the street from my apartment from which I speak to you now. About 7 years into my teaching here, I was chosen Teacher of the Year from among the approximately 150 teachers at the school. I am much better at teaching high school students than at teaching middle school students. I continued in the classroom until age 70, far past the age that most teachers choose to retire. And now at age 77, I have completed my 7th year of self-employment as a private math tutor. I love the experience of going to students' homes and helping them one-on-one with their math work. This coming August, I expect to be ready for my 8th year as a tutor, my 45th year as a math teacher. And I am now teaching math on YouTube also. My 100+ math challenge videos attest to that. Now, about pride and shame. I have said it before. I am deeply ashamed of my 7 years as a seminarian, followed by my 5 years as a Catholic priest. As you can probably tell, I am proud of my 44 years as a math teacher. What has each of those elderly priests been doing for the past 45 years? A lot of things, including saying Mass over 18,000 times each, imagining on each occasion that they are changing bread, wafers, and wine into the actual body and blood of their Jesus. Baptizing countless thousands of babies, imagining that the baptismal water cleanses the babies from the filthy condition of sin inherited from an imagined biblical man and woman, Adam and Eve. Telling countless thousands of people how they can get to be with their imagined God forever in an imagined heaven. Warning these countless men, women, and children about being tortured forever in their imagined hell if they stray from the straight and narrow. Hearing tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of confessions, imagining that they, being priests, have the power to obtain their God's forgiveness for the sins of these Catholic believers. Building and maintaining church buildings and church schools for the propagation of these imagined doctrines and practices for which there is not a shred of credible evidence. Telling thousands of people, come to Sunday Mass or you will go to hell. Telling married couples, don't use artificial birth control or you'll go to hell. Telling their parishioners, we oppose gay marriage. Meanwhile, what have I been doing with my life? Planning math lessons, grading math tests, striving in the classroom to get students to use their brains in a good way. TJ recently told me with a feeling of great pride that he was about to say his 1000th Mass. At that rate, when and if TJ gets to be my age, he will have said Mass approaching 20,000 times. I see that as 20,000 identical examples of utter uselessness. TJ and I see our lives very differently. He sees my life as a math teacher as worthwhile, he has told me so, but far less worthwhile than it could have been. I see the adult lives of these elderly Catholic priests as being wasted lives. To the extent that they fed the hungry and did other charitable work, good for them. But as Catholic priests, what a tragic waste. To all of you, thank you for watching this video.